Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited because I've got my lady boss, leading edge energy entrepreneur, Dianne Solano. Dianne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kornelia. Excited to be here. As usual, it's another month and another conversation on expansion.
Ooh, yes. Today we're going to talk about how to build a dream life around your business. And you brought with you a very special guest that we're going to introduce in just a few minutes. We're going to learn about how to build a purposeful business that you love while living the lifestyle that you dreamed of. And I mean, who can relate to that right now, especially right now? Learning universal principles on how to build a dream business that is an authentic expression of you. We have somebody here today that is doing it, that has done it, and that is a living role model example of how to do that. We're going to discover the 5 freedoms that will set you up for a life that you love. And I mean, that's really what it is all about now is, working and doing something that you absolutely love and, getting paid well for it as an entrepreneur. Gaining clarity and information that you can implement right now will empower you, your family, and your clients. That's what's going to be on our show today. Right, Dianne?
Oh, yes. Super excited. Everyone, I hope you have pen and paper out there because you're going to wish you take notes.
Yes. And so before we get started to introduce our guest, I just want to talk about, here it is, June 5th of 2020. Our whole entire world is entirely, completely different than we would have ever thought in a million years. And everybody has feelings. And right now, I like to always acknowledge the feelings. I like to check in with people and ask how they're feeling. How are they feeling about everything that's going on right now? Because we know that Black lives matter. And we also know that all lives matter at the same time. And everybody is in different places. And just before this podcast, I was doing another podcast on a new series called Stories of Hope. And one of the ladies there, I was asking her how she's managing with everything. And she was saying that she is feeling, tremendous guilt over the past of what has occurred. And so it's interesting when we acknowledge our feelings, when we acknowledge what's there, that is when we can truly heal it. Because when we can see it, when we can name it, when we can feel it, is when we can heal it. And so that's the message for all of us, is to, acknowledge our feelings and feel deeply into them, and then move on and, tap into that greater, higher, bigger plan that we came here to live. How are you feeling with everything, Dianne?
For me, it's really about sitting in the stillness and understanding there's a bigger universal law that's taking place and it's testing us. We are so being tested right now, and who you are is how you're going to show up. So the real question is, what kind of feedback, what kind of moment of stillness, and how are you responding to everything, whether it's COVID, whether it's, this racial inequality. Here's the bottom line. We need the highest frequency that exists that human beings have access to, which is love. Love is the absolute highest frequency. So when I hear all these stories and all these, misconceptions and all these power plays and all this greed and all this, come on, my job is to sit there and say, I am going to send love to every single person, every living being, because the more I can tune into that and cause a ripple effect, that's my space that I'm playing into the world. And I'm going a little over and beyond, I'm kind of applying universal law to all of this, because that's really what we need to do. And the more we can start to do that, the more we ripple effect that out within each other. And that's really where we need to live.
Yeah, and isn't that what we're doing? We're doing this in every moment, with our consciousness, with our being, with our intent, with our willingness to show up to be in our courage and to live our best lives. And that's part of what this show today is about. Why don't you introduce us to our very special guest today?
I love it. And it's a perfect segue because the energy entrepreneur is about businesses that are a win-win for every single person involved in the chain, from, the customer to the staff, to the way you market things, your partnerships with vendors, whatever it is. So I'm really excited today to have our special guest on because I know that Mr. Sachin Patel is a walking example of the energy entrepreneur. And better yet, he coaches other business um, entrepreneurs, in any model on how to actually apply and think about and expand, plant the seed of questions in your brain saying, are you really living your authentic life? Are you showing up powerfully in your business? Are you creating a life around a business you love as opposed to a business that owns you? And that's exactly the conversation we're going to touch on today. So, Mr. Sachin Patel is a distribution partner of mine and has many businesses globally. And when we connected, I just got really excited because he caught the vision, because he's a man of also higher frequency who understands bigger concepts and bigger laws out there. And that's the ultimate message, is we will always attract who we are. So he was just confirmation that, this whole vision that I had was definitely on path. So a little bit about Sachin tonight. Many of you probably haven't heard of him. I'm so used to introducing him to our core group, but Dr. Sachin Patel is an author, father, and has a beautiful wife and son. But he wrote this book called The Perfect Practice. And it's
Mm.
basically how to scale your business, become profitable, but really show up authentically using attraction marketing, using your vibration, who you are, to serve the world, right? And really show up fully in your power and design a love you absolutely love. And a lot of these concepts that I've been sharing, I have to say he's expanded me. And I actually wish he was around when I needed that kind of coaching, 10 years ago. But again, everything is about divine timing. So Sachin, like I said, he's a global speaker. He's the founder of his business online called the Living Proof Institute, where people can go in person here in Canada and get treatment. They do a lot of beautiful master classes now online. You get tons of value and information around his health experts. And of course, big influencer for our team and for the global universe. I know he was a speaker just recently for Microsoft, and will coach people on how to really look at things. And he's just going to be a truth talker. So maybe you may not like what you hear tonight, but think about it. If you're reacting or responding to it, there might be some truth to look at, right? So I'm going to welcome on Mr. Sachin Patel, formerly Dr. Sachin Patel, but of Ken, the golden handcuffs were removed by him. So he's going to do some awesome sharing today. Sachin, welcome to our wonderful conversation of entrepreneurial spirit and being the best authentic you and being profitable and magnetic in the process.
Well, Diane, thank you, and Cornelia, I appreciate this opportunity to speak with your tribe, and I've learned so much from you, Diane. So the feeling is very mutual, and that's what happens when you connect with people who help you spiral upwards together. And I love the fact that the universe caused that intersection in both of our lives and caused our paths to cross. And now, Cornelia, our paths are crossing as well. So the vibration keeps getting higher. I love it.
I love that too. Yes, absolutely. I love the spiraling up. That's a beautiful, or spiraling up or falling forward, and it's, I love that. I love that. How did the two of you meet? I'm curious how the two of you met.
Well, about 2 years ago, I was in the midst of sharing one of my most powerful, amazing products that I've ever used in my whole 20 years of practice, and it's the Ganoderma infused coffee. And I was looking to grow it globally and scale it, and ultimately share the message of conscious coffee. Things that we know, love, and do, and how we can upgrade those. So I actually put on a health chat, a health presentation with one of our leading experts in nutrition, Dr. Bob Rakowski, and he flew into Toronto, and we just had this massive campaign to invite every health practitioner out there. Sachin was one of our special guests that day. And I guess he really aligned with the message. He loved the product. And when I had a chance to have a conversation, I realized, this person would be a great partner to start spreading a word of consciousness on how to actually really do businesses today, and how, it really is about coming together as a community and consciously building where, I can't win unless someone else does. And he really did grasp that. He grasped the fact that through the business model, we were actually expanding lives. So it was a win-win, whether the person consumed the product, whether they joined the business, or they simply came around our information. We were expanding people in whatever way they needed to be expanded in. And I think that's where, we totally collided, and things just kept on growing and growing from there. So that's essentially how we met. And of course, now understanding how he speaks and shares all the principles, I'd love to hear from him today, and maybe share with our guests everything that you share with us, in live events, where how you can help entrepreneurs really look at their lives and maybe start applying some universal laws, some secrets, any, tips or coaching, Sachin, that maybe you can share with our viewers today.
Sure, absolutely. Well, nothing is a secret. Okay. Everything is known, and we're essentially, as Plato said, we don't learn anything new. We're just simply reminded. So the principles that I try to teach are timeless, usually priceless, and they don't cost you anything. It's just you've got to take action. And so, really, there's certain keys to success. And I actually wrote a little thing on Facebook today about just that, the kind of the 12 keys to success. So I'll mention some of them. One of them is an unwavering, obsessive, you know, you're drawn magnetically to what it is that you want to accomplish. So, Napoleon Hill might call it a magnificent obsession. So we've got to have that. We've got to have something that magnetizes us out of bed instead of wanting us to pull the covers over our eyes and go back to sleep. Now, even if you found what that one thing is, then there's still going to be mornings that you don't feel like getting out of bed, right? And that's the one of the beautiful things about life is, in nature, which is the thing that I study the most, is there's nothing smooth in nature. So the bark of a tree is not smooth, right? But that's what gives it its beauty. If it was perfectly smooth, there wouldn't be beauty in it. And that texture is really part of life. So there's no perfect circles or squares or triangles. So in fact, all the math that we learned, which is Euclidean mathematics, is all wrong with the way the world works. So we spent an entire lifetime learning the principles of mathematics that we can't apply in real life, right? That's why we don't use it. That's why hardly anything that we do, we apply to nature. That's why even as we try to heal people and study the human body, we spent billions, trillions of dollars studying the human body, trying to manipulate it, trying to force it to do things. And we still kill over 250,000 people a year just in the United States, through medical errors and things like that. So, once we understand the mathematical formula of nature, we can start applying it in our business, because that mathematical framework is sewn into it's the golden thread of the entire cosmos. So if you look at a picture of all the dark matter in the universe and you zoom all the way in from the largest scale in the universe to the smallest scale in the universe, you're going to see this branching pattern, this branching fractal architecture, we call it. And so if that principle applies across every scale in everything in the entire universe, what makes us think that it doesn't apply to us? And what also makes us think that it doesn't apply to our business? So if this is the math of the cosmos, there's billions upon billions of years of intelligence in this architecture, in this equation, so to speak. And why not just tap into that? Why not study it, because we can see it, and study that and model that. And if we can do that, then we will have relentless success, right? Like if you look outside with everything that's going on in the world right now, the thing that hasn't paused, hasn't skipped a beat is nature, right? All the leaves are out, like everything's happening exactly how it's supposed to happen, right? Unfettered by everything that's going on in the world. So, if we can learn from that, what can we learn from that? And how can we apply that in our business? And Jim Rohn teaches seasonality in business. So that's important for us to know that there is a winter, but guess what? There's also a spring, and there's also a summer, and there's also a fall or an autumn. And it's important for us to recognize these universal principles. So those are some of the things that we talked about in the 12 principles. But, this is something that I teach to my entrepreneurs and the practitioners that I work with, because once you see it, it's almost impossible to unsee it. And once you recognize this formula and start applying it, then almost instantaneously your life starts changing. and effortlessly. So one of the principles I teach to people is the path of least resistance. So we've been conditioned to think that we've got to take the path of highest resistance, but there's nothing in nature that does that, right? The river always takes the path of least resistance. So why do we, when we think we've got to create something big and magnificent or epic, why do we think we have to take the path of highest resistance?
Mhm.
Okay. Even when mountains are created, the mountain is created when two tectonic plates come together and there's a lot of pressure, but then it takes the path of least resistance. Right. So no matter what we're creating, whether we're creating the deepest, oceans, or whether we're creating the tallest mountains, the universal principle is the path of least resistance. So where can we start applying that in our life? And so one of the principles I learned many years ago is if it's difficult, not if it's hard. Okay, there's a difference between something being hard and something being difficult. So something that's difficult to do is not necessarily hard to do, but there might be tasks that we keep trying to get, but then we keep feeling like we're being sabotaged by outside forces. And that's the universe or God or this cosmic intelligence speaking to us and trying to nudge us. But what do? We take the path of most resistance because we think that if we take the path of least resistance, we're failing.
Mm.
Okay. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. So they keep beating themselves up in their business, in their personal life, in their feeling of imposter syndrome and all these things and never feeling good enough. And they live this highly resistant life because they're taking the path of highest resistance when this will never lead them to any form of success. It's costing them their health. It's probably costing them their business. It might be costing them their marriage. It might be costing them, who they are or how they show up as a parent or brother or sister or whatever it might be. So it's costing them everything and gaining them nothing. And it's not sustainable,
Mm.
right? Now, there's going to be times where you have to work hard. But what I always tell people to do is pay attention to whether what you're doing is hard or whether it's difficult. And if you're constantly being, you know, um, sabotaged, so to speak, then take that as a message that there's a different path that you've got to take. Right? The river doesn't try to go over the boulder; it goes around the boulder, and it always finds its way back to the ocean.
Yeah, I love that. I love taking the path of least resistance. It's like letting go of the fight in the fight the way that we've been doing it, and letting that go, and you know going more on an easier path, on a path that we haven't been on because we've been over here fighting with this resistance that you're talking about.
Mhm.
So I love taking the path of I think that's an art form. It's an art to practice, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think I agree, but I also think it's a belief system. So you have to believe that the path of least resistance is going to get you where you want to go.
Yes.
Okay. So typically when you think about success and when you see those posters, it's like somebody on the top of a mountain who's climbed that mountain, they've got their hands in the air. That's the classic picture that we see. We never see somebody on a floaty going down a lazy river, right? Because of, you would never see that on a success book or magazine or anything like that. But really, if you think about it, okay, some of the most successful people on the planet, they're doing work that's hard, not necessarily difficult. And the path of least resistance isn't always doing what's easy, but it's the
Mhm.
path of least resistance because the river's job isn't easy. Getting back to the ocean isn't necessarily easy. There's always going to be some resistance. We're just going to take the path of least resistance and kind of tap into our own intuition and understand where is the universe guiding us, right? Because I believe this, again, this is a belief system that I'm being guided, and if I can stick to my guiding principles and hold those true in every decision that I make, then I feel like it's going to allow me to move towards success faster. And the thing is that success is a series of decisions away. So I kind of gave my clients an example just the other day. If we take a piece of paper and we draw a line across it, and every inch or so, if you draw a little point, those points are little decisions that you have to make. And some people, it might take them a decision, it might take them 30 days to make a decision, such as what technology am I going to use? Okay. So it takes them 30 days to make a decision. Then the next decision takes them 30 days to make. And the next one takes 30 days or whatever the pace may be, but it's a slow cadence of decision making. Now, if you can get on a phone call with somebody who's already made all those decisions, then you can take what might take you a year to do and you can compress that into an hour. So, a big thing that we want to teach people when it comes to success is, how do I compress time? Well, the fastest way to compress time is to speed up decision making. And the way you speed up decision making is to really, I believe, people say to listen to your gut. And I say, don't, it's full of crap. I say you should listen to your heart, right? and and so listen to and you can actually measure these things. So without getting too technical, you can use neurofeedback tools to actually literally speak to your heart. You can measure something called heart rate variability. And if something puts you in a state of resonance, then your heart field has a more positive, constructive expression, versus if you're out of coherence, because you're not in alignment with the decision you're making, then you're obviously not going to move in the right direction. So not only does it affect your heart field, but that's also one of the key measurements of health. So if we ever try to build a business that's not aligned with our highest core values, and it disrupts our heart field, by disrupting our heart field, putting us into an incoherent state, puts us into a fight or flight state. So now you're in a chronic fight or flight state. So not only are you not going to be able to create the best business possible, because when you're in fight or flight, guess what? You're not thinking with your neocortex. You're reacting with your reptilian brain. Okay, so if I want to make good decisions, I've got to be in a state of physiology that is relaxed, or what we also know as parasympathetic physiology. So I can measure, using something called heart math, like a little device that clips to my ear. I can measure if a certain decision, a certain person, a certain project is moving my heart field in the wrong direction. Because if it's moving my heart field in the wrong direction, it's moving my decision making in the wrong direction, my health in the wrong direction, my relationships in the wrong direction. Everything that's good in my life is moving in the wrong direction if what I do keeps me out of coherence. So that's a lot packaged in there. It would take me 2 hours to fully explain it so people grasp it. But what I want people to know is that if you can tap into your intuition, then and really get good at that, then you can make decisions so much faster. Because I think at the end of the day, we all realize our intuition was right. And so if we can start trusting it, and even using devices like neurofeedback devices to help us, then it can actually even give us more insights to how to speed up decision making. So I hope that helps somebody. If you're ever using an HRV or heart math device, it's a powerful way to assess a lot of aspects of your business.
I love it. I never thought of using HRV in practice. Like I've always used it for meditation. I know Dr. Joe Dispenza, is a big fan of using the device. And sometimes we do it collectively, because you'll start to see if one person in the room goes into heart coherence, it actually we all actually go into coherence together, and it's been measured.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So this is why when, the earth is suffering, if we go into heart coherence, we actually start to multiply, and we with our own frequency start doing that. But this is brilliant, Sachin. I never thought of actually applying it to actual everyday decision making, because
Well,
there is a wisdom inside of us that knows.
yeah. So thanks for that, Diane. So here's how I share it with my clients. So I teach them how to use heart math to set their pricing. So here's a perfect example. You might be speaking to a client, a prospect, somebody who knows everything about your business, and you're talking with them, and the conversation's going really well. You're in coherence, they're in coherence. There's this excitement, and then you present the price, and your price takes you out of coherence. So now what happens is you were in coherence with this person, right? So you're resonating with them, and all of a sudden you're not resonating with them. So the frequency changes, and they're going to feel that, because you went from a constructive wave, right, which builds each other up. Now it's a destructive wave, because now they're opposites, right? Because you went out of coherence. And so they're not going to know why they feel this way, but they're going to feel a little apprehensive now, right? Because the energy in the room completely changed, because you either think you're charging too much or too little, or you don't truly feel like you can help that person and 10x their investment, or 5x, or whatever your metric is. you're not tapping into that. And so we use this as a training tool for people to set their pricing. So the only person the price matters to is actually you. And people forget that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. It's very important to really take that in,
Hmm.
to really own that, because that's a huge key to your success right there. Huge. Thank you for breaking that down. So you said you teach this to your clients about, this piece. So is this with the monitor, or is this something that you're giving them a series of questions so that they can align with their price point?
So there's two audiences that our companies work with. So we have a company called Perfect Practice, which works with practitioners, and these are functional medicine, lifestyle medicine practitioners, usually charging a cash fee, usually charging multiple $1,000s for their services. So they've got to be able to present a price that they feel is fair and comfortable for their practice, for their clients, et cetera. And then the other avatar that we work with, client base that we work with, not me, but my wife and my other clinicians, is the lay public. So people who are looking to balance their hormones, their metabolism, their energy. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs as well. And we teach both of these subsets how to use heart math because we feel it's such a valuable and important tool for them.
Wow, that's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Why don't we skipped our first break. Why don't we take a break on this show, and we'll be right back, and we'll speak more with the energy entrepreneurs. Welcome back, everyone. During the break, we were talking about. I asked Satyan about the heart math monitor. Is it something that you can get at the Heart Math Institute? And then we had a wonderful conversation. Would you mind sharing with us what you shared with us during the break?
Sure, absolutely. So, my wife actually uses the heart math. She's a certified instructor and she trains people on how to use it. And so, of course, every morning she's using it. And when I asked her one day to make me my morning coffee, my morning mocha that I have, and maybe we'll share that recipe in a minute, but her heart math, which was incoherence, immediately dropped out of coherence. And so, the husband in me and the person who has that awareness said, I'm not going to ask her to make that coffee for me anymore because it takes her out of coherence, which is not fair to her. And I don't want her infusing that incoherent energy into that food. And she was at that point unconscious of how her preparing my coffee made her feel. And so it brought that awareness to both of us. So I feel like neurofeedback tools like heart math are really powerful because they can improve relationships, they can improve your health, they can improve your business because you can literally speak to your heart. You can think it's pretty cool because you can think of your children and playing and having fun and amazing times in your life, and you can see how it affects your physiology. And then you can think of other things, maybe other people or projects or things that have happened to you, and you can truly identify if you've healed from past traumas based on whether these traumas can take you out of coherence or not. Because if something takes you out of coherence, it puts you into a fight or flight state, which is the opposite state in the body of healing and repair. So that was just a cool little observation, and it sometimes changes the dynamics of what you ask people to do for you.
One more quick thing before Diane is going to ask you some other questions is which heart monitor was that you recommended, because you have a particular brand that you recommend.
Yeah, so the Heart Math Institute has a few different offerings. The one we recommend is called the Inner Balance. So it's a Bluetooth device, and you're only using it for a few minutes a day, and you can clip it to your shirt and then to your ear, and then through the Bluetooth it connects to your phone or your iPad, and then that allows you to get instantaneous neurofeedback, so you can see in that moment what your heart rate variability is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Isn't that cool? We just learned, like, wow, I should have hooked that up years ago. I would have gotten answers faster. But it's so true. We're so conditioned to just go through, do the role, be in role model or be in a particular, I guess the box where we should be doing, as opposed to what we heart centeredly want to do, what our spirit really wants. So brilliant, brilliant, Sachin. I never thought of actually applying that to everyday life, right? You think you're just going to use it for meditation and then put it away. And no, it should be clipped on me 24/7 so I can get a real indicator of how am I living my life and am I incoherent? And when I'm not, what am I doing? So that way I can wake up and say what needs to change. So,
Yeah.
so powerful.
One of
Thank
the
you.
things I wanted to point out is that the reason I asked this question again was because I see so many entrepreneurs struggling with selling, selling in their business, in their offerings and whatever it is that they're doing in their entrepreneur business, and that they're not in coherence with their prices because they feel bad on some level about charging what they're charging. That's what prompted my question, because I see a lot of people not feeling good about what they're offering. And that was your point, is to make sure that you're in resonance with your price point, so that when you're bringing out your price point, that the person can actually feel what you're feeling.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
charge what's
exactly it.
fair. Charge what's fair and what keeps you in resonance, and everyone's happy that way.
Right on, Sachin. Love the sharing. Love the sharing. I'd love for us to maybe go down the rabbit hole a little bit. I know you brought up the concepts of fractals, and sometimes these complex mathematical equations that the universe has actually put together for us, that what we actually live by, but we're not even aware of it. I think is super important. I think people need to wake up to that, because that was a real aha moment I have when I started kind of studying a little more of quantum law and universal laws and principles, and even in doing a lot of the courses with Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's a lot of video footage on every single living organism basically is made up of a fractal pattern. And it's almost like the Russian dolls, you get the bigger doll and the smaller doll and the smaller
Hmm.
doll. If you look into everything, a plant, a microscopic organism, your cells, your 100 trillion cells that are breathing and doing work every single day, it all boils down to the same patterns. And it is so fascinating. And this is where you and I totally had a wonderful intersection, where we understood the power of that, universal messaging, that mathematical equation that our cells desperately need, that our bodies really use to heal. And how we both saw that Conscious Coffee, the organo product line, and how this company infused medicinal mushrooms, which are fractals, going into your everyday beverage, removing the guilt behind it, and adding nourishment and adding intelligence, and how people have had some beautiful breakthroughs just by switching over what they typically drink. And maybe you can share a little bit about your knowledge on medicinal mushrooms and your experience with the organo product line. That would be awesome.
Sure, absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics. So, interesting fun fact about mushrooms is we share about 50% of our DNA with mushrooms. So, many billions of years ago, we separated. We were actually part of the same kingdom and then separated into the fungal kingdom and the animalia kingdom. So, all animals owe their origin to this common species that we had. So mushrooms are actually more animal than plant. That's another interesting fun fact. We kind of put them in the vegetable category a lot of times, but they're their own kingdom. They're a completely separate kingdom of species, and they actually are more human than they are plants. So kind of an interesting cross in between. Mushroom cells actually breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, just like we do. So mushrooms have to create defenses and mechanisms against viruses and bacteria and mold and other fungi that would attack oxygen breathing, oxygen consuming cells. So they contain the actual software, they contain the intelligence, the cosmic intelligence, or the intelligence of the kingdom itself. And they have the capability of resisting fungi, other fungi, mold, bacteria, parasites, and things like that. So that's why they're so good at helping us. At the level of which they operate, they serve as the immune system, the digestive system, the lungs, the nervous system of the forest. They're also the detoxification organ of the forest, just like our liver and kidneys are. So it's really fascinating when you study mushrooms, because what they do is they're the universal transformers. They're transforming hydrocarbons into carbohydrates. What are hydrocarbons? Hydrocarbons are dead matter. What is dead matter? Well, it could be leaves, it could be old trees, but it could also be petroleum-based products like oil and plastics. And that's why mushrooms can actually digest plastics and turn them into mushrooms. I mean, how cool is that? How fascinating is that? We can take oil and diesel and things like that and use the intelligence of these universal transformers and convert them into oyster mushrooms. How about that? So there's thousands and thousands of different mushrooms. Some are poisonous, some are medicine, for healing our nervous system, for healing our soul, for healing our wounds, our spiritual wounds. Some of them are powerful in helping us, with our consciousness, with our spirituality, but also many of them have powerful effects on our immune system, digestive system, nervous system, and so on. So mushrooms uh, came here and had to be here before anything else on this planet existed, because it's the mushrooms and the mycelium from the mushrooms that turned our rock planet into soil. So what mushrooms do is they basically demineralize stone and they demineralize rock and pull the minerals out. So now we can actually grow plants. At one point in human history, well, long before human history, actually, several billion years ago, the tallest species of the tallest living things on the planet were actually mushrooms. You'd have mushrooms that would grow 40 feet tall. So you can only imagine how fascinating and how unique and different a world that would be. So there's lots of fun facts about mushrooms. They're very poorly understood, but they are just this. I always say that every problem that us humans have created, mushrooms have already solved. So they can help us solve our emotional and spiritual challenges we have as humans. They can help us solve our pollution challenges that we have. They can help us solve our medical challenges that we have. So there's so many important applications of mushrooms. So it's excited to be in even a small way involved in bringing this, to the forefront, so more people are aware of their, just how powerful they are in helping evolve humanity in so many different ways.
I love it.
Wow, I'm totally taking all this in. You said the mushrooms are, a league in their own. They are, a league in their own. And I've never thought of mushrooms in that way. So I could see I could see you write a book on this whole subject about mushrooms, because you're making me very interested in looking more into all the wonderful things about mushrooms and the way that you're telling the story of what mushrooms can do for us. So wow. And there's so much to learn, isn't there?
Well, I mean, people spend an entire lifetime. And, I would definitely encourage people to learn more about Paul Stamets. He's the world's leading mycologist, and he's got a great TED talk, how mushrooms can save the world. So I definitely would check that out and follow his work. He's absolutely amazing. And he had a movie come out just recently. It's called Fantastic Fungi,
Oh,
and it's actually not pronounced fungi, it's actually pronounced fungi. And so definitely a must watch. I mean, one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen.
It's a great documentary. It's one of
Mhm.
my, like, I actually highly recommend it, especially for any of our distribution partners, any of our customers, anyone consuming the beverages. Once we start sharing the innate intelligence behind what they're consuming in their body, it's almost like we start to expand their mind, expand knowledge right across the board between all of us. And it's so beautiful to watch people having aha moments and getting more excited about the information, because they're essentially having now access to this. And we didn't know how powerful they are until recently. And this documentary has been translated in many languages. And you can now watch it from the comfort of your own computer, because it used to be playing in theaters and then COVID hit. But you know what? There are gifts in everything.
Yep.
Sometimes, one door opens, but then there's a whole bunch of other doors that open as well. One closes, the other one opens. That's what I meant to say. So now this documentary has been passed along, and now the world can see it. And like I said, in any language, because it's really, really waking up our humanity, saying, you know what? If this alone, and we've been able to study it, does this, there's so much more beyond under the soil we don't even know about. And that's exactly it.
yeah. Isn't this series on Netflix now? Isn't it on Netflix, you guys?
I don't think it's on Netflix yet.
Oh, it's not on Netflix yet?
Nope,
Oh,
but you can Google it and you can pull it up and you can definitely have access to watch it. And like I said, I got excited because I saw it in Spanish. So I have a lot of distribution partners in Mexico and we have new ones in Spain and we meet online, through Zoom right now. And we're building globally because we're helping many families and people around the world being able to leverage their lives, especially now that people are looking for home-based businesses. And this is where, Sachin and we did a wonderful talk last night, went well over an hour and a half. We had like 100 viewers on, and the replay is being highly, highly asked on the thread. That's all. My phone's been blowing up this morning. Everybody wants a copy because those that missed out, they're having FOMO. But where Sachin went really deep into the medicinal mushrooms and how Organo infuses it in their coffee and how people just switching over their beverages for $1 a cup are getting nourishment or getting empowered, and those that align with it are also having an extra vehicle for creating abundance. And that's how this world works. It's through cooperation and not through competition. And I love how, Sachin, you shared with that yesterday with the team, and everything that you loved about the company. I don't know if you can share with us today with the viewers and those that are kind of intrigued, because that happens when we share about this topic. Everyone loves coffee. How can we upgrade it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the beautiful thing about Organo is that we're upgrading, something that people are already doing. We can take something that some people might even consider a bad habit and turn it into a daily ceremony of self-love. That's how I view my morning, routine. So it's become part of my morning routine, and I know that I'm putting the best coffee and also the best and most nurtured and most loved, Ganoderma reishi spores in my food in my drink every morning. So I have that in the morning. I have put some maca powder in it, some cacao powder in it, some hazelnut creamer in it, and I'll add something called Dandy Blend to it, which can also be used as a coffee substitute. But I like mixing that in there because it's great for your liver and gallbladder. So I'll have that every single morning. That's my favorite beverage, and it's just a great way to start my day. And I've felt great using it. Many of our patients have had transformational changes just by simply switching out their coffee. And, it's not something that is new or foreign to people. They're familiar with it. They already have a budget for it. So from a business perspective, it made total sense, to take something people are already doing and upgrade it for them.
Dianne, do you want to give us some links, give the audience some links for people to go to so they can check out, how to, get involved with Organo, whether they just want to test out the coffee or the spores or the look at the business opportunity, because there's many ways that you can become involved. But the way that you always recommend, Dianne, and that is just to test the coffee, try the coffee, test the coffee, try it out and see. My own personal story was, you know, I I've always been a coffee snob, and I've always used to would have this rubbling in my stomach after I would drink my coffee in the morning, regular coffee. And when I switched over to Organo, for some reason, all of that stopped. My stomach was more at ease with, and I guess it was, part of the mushroom, and then also the antacid, right, was also part of that, and it really shifted that whole thing in my stomach. So a lot of people have those experiences when they first try it out.
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate of you got to fall in love first with whatever product you plan to endorse. You got to be a walking product of the product. I think integrity and congruency is everything in any business model that you do. If you're not doing it, you shouldn't be promoting it. At least, well, I guess there's some exceptions to that rule, but ultimately, I really love for people to have a breakthrough with the product. And it really is a single serving sachet. You literally need hot water. You cut it open, you add it to a mug, and you just fill it with hot boiling water, and away you go. Let your body tell you. We have 100 trillion cells. Our bodies are super honest. They never lie. And you will feel it. You will feel it if it works. You'll feel a shift. Or maybe you won't. We don't know, but try it. That's the best way of finding out. So the company has different flavors. They have Sachin's favorite, which is King. That's their organic. I would call this the Lamborghini of the coffee line. This is the highest quality. It's got the spores in it. But then they also have lattes and mochas and hot chocolates and all kinds of different vehicles to get those mushrooms inside. So you can go to, we'll post up Sachin's online store today, since he's our special guest, you can go to livingproof.myorganogold.com and purchase a box, try it. I tell people, if you're going to do it, you got to drink it exclusively and let your body let you know how it tastes and how it makes you feel. And enjoy it until the duration of a box. And then, like I said, if you want more, you're welcome to keep ordering. If you want to know about the business model, right now, it was the biggest question I got in the last 2 months was, how do I actually build from home? And the reason being is because 5 years ago, this business model of Organo actually got me out of a very, very, very desperate situation. I became a single mom, got the rug pulled out from underneath me. And I just remember praying every night, going, you know what? I don't know what I can do to really help build my financial stability, have an unlimited ceiling of production and wealth if I wanted to do that. My mentor, Dr. Bob Rakowski, actually introduced me to the Organo business line and the product line. It was a perfect fit for me. I love being on purpose. I love nutrition, health, and wellness. I was looking for something that would be able to give me expansion without risk and without capital. So right now, people have known my story for the past 5 years. We've brought in, I think we're probably right now at 6 million in sales around the world. But what's beautiful is we're helping so many families globally. I have women in Mexico. I have, right now, Kornelia, we've been trying to open up Liberia with wonderful Emmanuel. We're working on the paperwork to have people and individuals in third world countries, especially. You bring in an extra $200-300 a month, you change their lives, you change generations to come. So I love the business model because it was about being cooperative, working as a team, and having that win-win team strategy, which is really rare in business. So again, if this sounds like something you're curious about, you can always reach out to me directly. Happy to coach you along the way. That's what I do. I became now a global coach for the Organo product line and helping people actually have wins. So, DianneSolano.com with 2 N's, Dianne with 2 N's, of course, because people spell it with one, and you can just shoot me an email, and just, do whatever you got to do to get to a better space in your life, whether it's bettering your health through a cup of coffee, whether it's, getting your heart math monitor and getting really honest with yourself with what serves you and being in coherence, because that's what the world needs. Or if you need more options about having, a side hustle or getting out of debt or getting a retirement plan or extra nest egg, like right now, multiple sources of income is truly where it's at. Many people right now are asking questions. So
Absolutely. I just want to add Sachin's link. So if you want to test the coffee, go to becomeproof.myorgano. Becomeproof.myorgano.
I
And
think it's
so
livingproof.myorganogold.com.
he
Um,
typed it in.
yeah,
Oh, he typed it in. Okay, good.
it's become proof at becomeproof.myorganogold.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sachin.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, we just want to make sure if people are driving and listening to it, you can also look at when we load it up to the YouTube channel. We'll put all the links in there so that you can get it. But you can contact any of us at any point in time, and we can lead you into the right direction. The bottom line is that there's so many resources for you to really build the life of your dreams, to live according to your core values, what's important to you, and to achieve the success and the wealth and the happiness that you desire. It's all there for you. But making those decisions, when you were talking earlier, Sachin, about the decision making, and when you were telling me about when you're telling me about, like, some people make decisions, like one decision a month or something like that, whatever you said.
Hmm.
And that would drive me nuts. That oh my god, that wouldn't work at all. Can you imagine one decision per month? It's like, really? Was that just like an example, or does that really happen?
Well, some people get paralyzed by decisions, right? They're overwhelmed, or they don't know who to turn to, or they're constantly doubting themselves because they may have made mistakes in the past. So it does happen. Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. That's so interesting. I can't even imagine. I'm glad that you brought it forth, because somebody might be able to recognize themselves and go, oh, I want to change that. And so
Hmm.
getting with somebody that is good at decision making is definitely a thing to do. So we have 2 minutes. What do we want to leave the audience with for 2 minutes?
I'll hand it over to Sachin. Sachin, whatever you want to grace the audience with, especially right now, people are asking a lot of questions. Any insights or shares?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we talk about the five freedoms really quick? Because I think that's something that is very relevant right now. I believe that everything that's going on right now is a big reset. It's a time for us to ask really important questions, maybe questions we've been putting off, or we've got to come face to face to them, face to face with them. I know I certainly had to come face to face with certain decisions, and I know that many of you are probably encountering that. So the five freedoms are health, right? Health gives us a lot. Health allows us to have all the other freedoms. So you should never try to accomplish any of the other freedoms without first trying to pursue health. The second freedom is emotions. So we could have a healthy body, but we also need to have a healthy mind, and we have to be in control of that mind and be trigger proof. Can't be easily triggered because that shifts our physiology and that destroys our health. The next freedom is time. We've got to have the time to do the things we love with people we love. Then geography, to be able to travel and have that freedom to see this beautiful planet. And the last one is money. So if we pursue money first as a freedom or finances as a freedom, it could come at the price of the other ones. So make sure you pursue the first four first, and the last one will naturally fall into place for you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening and tuning in. Thanks, Satyan and Diane. It's wonderful to have you on. Many blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.